My system was showing that it wasn't live, and then it was. I do apologize. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's Gift of Healing TV. I'm Sarah Jane, your hostess and founder of Gift of Healing TV. And this week I have great pleasure in my guest is Mahalia Michael. And Mahalia is going to be sharing with us Brain-Bliss. Now, I'm really looking forward to this and hearing more about this. But first of all, I'd like to introduce you to her. Mahalia has a rare ability that unites remote viewing, clairaudience, clairsentience, medical intuition, and light sound. Trained in ancient Hawaiian healing arts and gifted with unique sounds from the whales and dolphins, she is able to advance and accelerate clients who are ready to let go of the cycle of suffering and live their dreams. Trained in ancient Hawaiian healing arts and gifted with unique sounds. Oh, I think I've put that twice. I do apologize, folks. She is the inventor and conductor of Brain-Bliss and Brain-Bliss light sound that optimizes brain and life function. Mahalia founded Brain-Bliss and Brain-Bliss light sound after rehabilitating her own brain and body from 20 years of PTSD and disability due to a variety and history of unresolved and unmet physical, mental, emotional, and sexual traumas. She is the creator of Alumni. Is that Animal Defense Fitness DVD, the first of its kind in the world, dance fitness DVD tuned to 432 hertz musical tuning. She is an authority on health and fitness, transformations combining in-depth knowledge and experience as an award-winning athlete, as well as writer, dancer, poet, painter, and mystic. Mahalia, oh, I'm sorry about that. Welcome to the program. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah Jane, for putting on Gift of Healing TV for the viewers. Thank you for having me.
It's a real pleasure. One of the first questions I like to ask my guests is, share a little of your story. Now, I know there was a hint of a mention in what we've just read, but share a little of your story. Help people to know how it all came about for you, because we'd love to hear it.
Thank you. And I do want people to know that I had an excellent childhood. I have wonderful parents, wonderful family life. So the way that my life became very dysfunctional did not add up to what my family life was like. I had great nutrition, great environment, lots of love, lots of support and education. However, my first head trauma happened when I was in kindergarten, somewhere racing my boyfriend John around the school, and we bonked heads. We met and we were running so fast we bonked heads. And I was knocked out and went to the principal's office after and was just said, "Oh, you look fine, don't worry, shake it off, rest it off, you'll be okay." But actually what happened was the sensitivity of my brain and my nervous system went into what I have now found to be a shadow frequency. And that shadow frequency is a biological response that creates more trauma. So throughout my life, I kept having traumas, whether they were physical, mental, emotional, and even sexual, all the way to about 7 major head injuries and concussions, all the way into my 30s, which caused, through the greater part of my life, post-traumatic stress disorder. So the symptoms of head injury and trauma that I experienced, and for everybody it's going to look and be differently, for them, different. I actually got to the point where I was stuttering, really hesitating on my speech. I couldn't form a full sentence without it taking a very long time. I had panic attacks, shortness of breath, short and long-term memory loss, low self-worth, lots of fears and phobias and insecurities. I had, on the outside, I looked healthy probably to people, but they had no idea what was going on the inside. And the big part of that also was this regular vision that I would have of me hurting myself. And I've now discovered that that is also part of our biology. When the brain has been traumatized so much in the central nervous system, then this defense mechanism almost gets set into the brain, and it is survival of the fittest. So I don't have those visions anymore since I discovered light and sound to optimize my brain. And with the help of the white whales and dolphins and the sounds that they make, that has completely changed my life, allowed me to dissolve those symptoms and now offer Brain-Bliss to other people.
I'm sure there are an awful lot of people like myself who can relate to trauma. I'm sure there are, to be perfectly honest, what's traumatic? To a child, one word can be traumatic. So I am sure that practically everybody, if not everybody, has had something traumatic happen to them. And that should never, ever be belittled. And as you said, you looked okay, you looked well, and okay from all the things that if you've done, you know, sort of athlete, dancer, you know, sort of, obviously you portrayed that, but nobody can see the traumas that hurt emotionally and then hit at a cellular level. And so it absolutely, so you, it's empowering the release of that trauma. Is that what Brain-Bliss helps to do?
Yeah, it does. It helps to unravel the shadow frequency that gets put in place and causes our biology to behave in certain ways that we will then express symptoms. I want to also mention that I had what felt like a chronic broken heart. So I always had this deep, deep heartache, and nothing externally could ever fill that ache, even though I searched and searched. Not a relationship, not a material thing, not money could take that ache away until I unraveled the emotion, unraveled that hurt that I was never really taught how to express and to give a voice to it. And so the heart is also a big part of Brain-Bliss and unraveling that trauma and shadow frequency. So it is a journey, and it's about willingness, and it's not about reliving an incident. It's not like we have to, in our minds, rethink about what happened. It's actually just giving an organic voice to the pain in the body, to the suffering in the body. And by doing that, we clean away what is called our quartz, our inner quartz. We have that inside like a beautiful gemstone. We want to clean that off so that we have the sparkly light brightness inside, and that allows our cells, our neurons, to have greater communication. So I want to touch on trauma a little bit as well, because it was Dr. Gabor Mate who said that 100% of his clients, he's a doctor that works on the Vancouver East Side, where our drug addicts, the worst alcoholics and people living on the streets, prostitutes, live, and he has worked with them for over 14 years, has said that 100% of his clients all had head trauma when they were little. So it was undiagnosed, unrecognized, untreated head trauma. And the other thing that nature has built into us is this repeat mechanism, and how the brain, with this shadow frequency and this patterning, it's almost like a vortex, will attract more trauma. And it doesn't have to be a head injury, it could be anything. So it actually also feeds the lower brain mechanism, which I teach in my courses on with Brain-Bliss, is how our lower brain functions, the middle emotional brain, and then our higher brain. So with Brain-Bliss, we do our best to get people up into their higher brain, connected with their greater intelligence.
And heart does come into it, because I suppose I think about the trauma that I went through, and although I didn't hit my head, I got scalded, so it was head area, and so I can relate to that in its own way, because, you know, coffee all over your face is it's still head area. And as you said, it doesn't have to be a physical trauma. It is about the heart. And I think sometimes those traumas can be compounded by what happens with them. The hospital treatment, parents being around, all sorts of different things, or not being around, as the case may be, depending on the rules and regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And so the heart trauma comes in as well, with feelings of not being good enough and all the rest of it. And of course, that, as much as it's in the heart, it's the head that takes over of you're not worthy.
Well, there's so much to that. We have more than one brain. So we have neurons all over our body. So the neurons in our brain communicate with the neurons in our heart and the neurons in our stomach or gut area, small and large intestine. So there's this constant communication going on to really what nature wants is us to be healthy, strong, self-loving individuals, and that's the focus. However, yes, when we have these traumas, and when we're young, we don't know how to deal with it. We don't realize that our very delicate, very sensitive nervous system has been impacted, and that Dr. Hamer of German New Medicine says when there's a conflict shock in the brain that creates almost like a helmet that when say coffee in the face or an emotional trauma, it's a conflict that gets created where, okay, is it self-worth and self-love, or is it self-loathing and self-rejection? So we just need to go in and unravel it. It's not about being a victim to these things. Yes, we can look back in our past and we can remember what happened, yet there's we want to also collapse and not solidify what happened in the past and be in the now moment. Be present with what is now, but while unraveling and dissolving just the history of that emotion and pulling and letting it dissolve. So with cleaning the shadow frequency, it's actually quite simple. So I use the whale tones. They are based on delta frequency. Delta is a lower tone similar to Tibetan bowl. So I have my Tibetan bowl here. That emits a nice deep tone. Shadow frequency is a deeper delta tone. So what we want to do is meet the tone together. This is known as homeosonic medicine, as similar to homeopathic, but it's sound. So one like sound meets one like sound, and it cancels itself out. What I love about this is it gently just dissolves back to the 0 point field, or what I call the womb of creation. It doesn't take a lot of work and effort to dissolve shadow frequency. The key is to dissolve it and then not build back up on it. The key is to learn how to use our brain differently so that we are in our heightened intelligence and aware of the brain biology and what is going on. When I was growing up, I didn't know what was going on in between my ears. I forgot that I even had a brain with all my head traumas. I didn't know, that was the culprit for all of my issues until I met Dr. Swingle, a psychoneurophysiologist, who told me I had the brainwaves of a war veteran and that it was causing me a disability. Now that gets to one of the points on our list, Sarah, is that Dr. Swingle was the first doctor to talk to me about brainwaves. And I'd never heard of brainwaves before. And it was the first time I realized my brain is made of music. So we have alpha, beta, delta, theta, gamma, and high beta brainwaves that must be in tune for the brain to function optimally. We can't tune brainwaves with something physical, as in like a pill. The brainwaves are tuned with light and sound. So what I find with a lot of clients is they have a lot of deep, low delta frequency in the back of their brain. That can cause short and long-term memory issues, which is what I had as well. Low delta back here in the lower brain stem. So we want to alter that delta tone to have more alpha and more beta brainwave. They're faster brainwave signals because our brainwaves are firing at all times. And gamma brainwave is our fastest brainwave. It's also the motherboard of all of the other brainwaves, and it helps with heightened creativity, focus, and higher intelligence as well. But we need to find out where the brainwaves are at in people with neurofeedback, biofeedback, people like Dr. Swingle, who really helped me get on track with understanding the use of sound for my brain and tuning my brainwaves. After a few sessions of tuning my brainwaves, I could see the world more clearly. I had less phobias. My speech improved. My vision as far as seeing colors improved as well. It became more vivid.
Wonderful. Are you going to give us a demonstration of some of this? because it would be wonderful, even if it was only a short one.
Well, a whale tone would sound something like, oh, something like that. I don't record my sounds so far. I haven't. So, but they're very strong. Okay, whales communicate underwater. You know, they have the largest heart of any animal in the world, mammal. They are beautiful. They are so loving, and they're here to help purify and keep balance on the bottom of our ocean floor. We must love our whales, protect the waters that they live in. And their sounds, when they send a signal to another whale, they're traveling hundreds of miles underwater. They're very powerful. Whales hold the ancient records of all of the world, all of humanity. They're so wise, they're so loving, and they have so much forgiveness for our lack of consciousness. So with Brain-Bliss, we're waking up our consciousness, we're waking up our awareness to the power of our biology, to what it means to be self-actualized, to be self-regulating, to be sovereign in our body and system. And the whales are here to help us. So a few whale tones collapsing the delta frequency can be very strong. Just from my voice projecting, they're very intentional. So I don't usually record them. However, on that note, Sarah, I want to invite people to participate in my free monthly call that I do on the first of every month at 9 o'clock Pacific time. It's only 20 minutes. So they go to my website and click on Free Bliss at any time on the first of every month. They can participate for 20 minutes and experience a little bit of that.
Okay, let's just put that up here. I hope I've got that right. Right, Brain-Bliss.com. For some reason,
it's the other reason why when I work with clients one-on-one that it's not feasible to just do one session. I like people to have at least 4 sessions because the light and the sound does alter biology. Our brain operates on music. Like I said, I see the brain and body as a musical instrument, and we're tuning that musical instrument. We're unraveling trauma as though it was a guitar string that was loose and it wasn't able to play and tune properly. We're cleaning that chord, we're tightening that string. And so your brain and body does start to sing more in harmony and sing in harmony with the universe. That is the ultimate goal. With the whale tones and the dolphin tones, there is this process of illuminating the neurons in the brain. So, and the DNA, your genetics, so that there's what's called neural acoustic regenesis. There is an unraveling, a cleaning, and there's an advancing, accelerating. So everything starts to communicate better. And the mitochondria in every cell in our body really operates and functions on electricity, electrical current, sound, wave. And if we're not giving it that, then we can start to look at, well, maybe that's why we have pain and suffering in our body. Maybe it's that we need a little bit of tuning. Maybe we need some light and sound and regeneration and activation of our mitochondria, the powerhouse of every cell, of the light in our DNA, so we have greater expression of our potential.
absolutely. I mean, sound energy is, people are starting to realize just how important sound energy is in so many different forms. Light, is there a specific light that you use, or is there is a matter of go out and get some sunlight? And as people can probably see, I've got a rainbow on me at the moment. Sunlight coming in. But so yeah, I love natural light. So is it natural light? Is it specific light? Because obviously the sounds are one thing, but what's the light you use?
It's a great question. It's the light, light from my heart, light from my brain, light from the quartz crystal structure within my system based on how much I've cleaned and purified my own shadow frequency that I do every day. Light from the adamantine particles that are in nature and all around us. Light from the sun, from the great central sun, light from beyond the sun up into the stars and beyond the stars, up into the heavenly acoustical and musical realms. It's a light that is profound, that is everywhere, and that everyone has access to, that is part of nature. And it's reminding people to tune into that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And it is all about the whole, isn't it? Yeah, the sound, the light, the air, the water, the everything. It, if you like, it's the mind, body, and spirit, but of what feeds that. You picked up your Tibetan singing bowl, and you mentioned a sound that comes from that. But what I find with sound is it helps if people can hear it. So do you want to just give your bowl a tap? Because it would be really lovely just to hear the sound of that.
Yeah, and this is an ancient Tibetan bowl, and you can see that it has an uneven line around the rim. Why that's important is it allows microtones to emit. So the sound can carry, it's not a perfect line. Nature is not in a perfect line. So we let the sound travel. And this Tibetan bowl has been hammered hundreds, if not thousands of times by a Tibetan monk putting beautiful prayer into it. So it can emit a mantra, a chant of more love, more peace and harmony into the world when it is played. So it just sounds like this. Nice and deep.
And that's beautiful, because you think it's stopped, and then you realize that actually, and it proves that sound is a vibration, because you can feel the vibration of it.
Mm-hmm. It's still going, actually. So yeah, it's a wonderful tool. And remember that we're looking with light and sound, as far as Brain-Bliss goes, is this emits that delta tone, delta frequency. And I invite people sometimes to give a, well, not sometimes, all the time, to give a voice to their trauma, give a voice to where they might have pain in their body, and let it be deep and reverberating, similar to this Tibetan bowl. We need to reverberate in our bones, because it's not just that an emotion has been planted in one area. It's because we are a whole, as you said, Sara. We can have them travel throughout our bodies, though some people's system will reflect that trauma. Say someone, it could be in their kidneys, another person in their bowels, in their liver, in their brain, in their heart. And we can be very high functioning in the world. We can have a great job, a great career. We can have a great family and still be suffering on the inside. So we need to give ourselves time to give that voice, a voice to our hurts, to what's been built up inside of there. So if someone has to find privacy in their day, maybe in their car when they're driving, or just actually prefer being parked, then you start to use that deeper voice as though you were the Tibetan bowl, because you are a temple. You are a precious genius, ultra sensitive, ultra magical, exquisitely impeccable with your design as far as what is possible with the biology. So to imagine you are the Tibetan bowl giving a voice and uprooting any of those, that heavy area in the body, any areas where there is trauma, then, and it can sound just like, ooh. We could do it ooh, similar to what a Tibetan bowl might sound like. That maybe didn't sound like a Tibetan bowl, but it's not about sounding pretty. Pain and trauma does not sound pretty, and it is not in tune. It's distorted, it's warped, and let the ugliness come out. Don't let it stay in the body. Let the light in the body be free. Let it resonate like rainbows. We want that prismatic radiance in our quartz crystalline structure. Because getting back to the brainwaves, they're rainbows. It's a rainbow in our brain. We want all the colors in sync. We want all the sounds in sync. We want the patterns flowing rhythmically and beautifully like waves on an ocean, just like a beautiful orchestra. And it sounds like a lot. When I get so excited, there's so much to share about the brain, and but also with the breath, just breathing in the infinite luminous golden white light that is all around us at all times. Taking it in and letting our body be served by energy so that we can evolve into greater health, into our freedom, into our parasympathetic state, which is our rest, digest, heal, nourish mode. It's not sympathetic, which is fight, flight, overdrive, panic, chronic stress, adrenaline, cortisol. Many people get addicted to that, and then they spiral downward, and stress is the #1 killer. You know, Dr. Daniel Amen has said we must look inside of the brain. We must look inside at trauma. We must look inside at how we're really physically operating. Are we serving our highest good? And I love Brain-Bliss because it's giving people solid scientific biological answers and solutions, as well as the invisible elements of light and sound, and that meet and marry, which is our true nature. So I'm jumping all over the place.
But this is just how it is. It is because, to me, trauma, anything that happens to you, and especially as a child, you don't know how to deal with it. And so what I've seen is that our solar plexus is like a well, and it's where we stick everything that we haven't dealt with. And yes, it does affect, as you said, all the organs of our body. It comes out, especially when it's ready to be dealt with. And that's when we get our aches and pains, and we realize actually we're not as fit and healthy as we thought we were, because we haven't dealt with those traumas. We seem to think, oh, right, that was so many years ago, that's got to have been sorted by now. But sometimes things can happen in a day, and you think, I haven't got time to deal with that now, I'll deal with it later. And we don't. And we do have to let that hurt and that pain out. The quicker we can do it, the better it is. And crying is brilliant because it is also a sound. It's a release, but it's a sound. And allow whatever those sounds are, for me.
Oh, I love tears. I love crying. I did a lot of crying through my 20-ish years with post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot of confusion, a lot of suffering. And so for any of the viewers watching this, please know that I created Brain-Bliss because of that suffering, because I realized there's millions of people out there with chronic pain and hurts and broken heart, and that we have a way to resurrect ourselves and to unravel that trauma and the power of our voice. So tears for one thing, yes. So now when tears come from me, they're from a very organic, natural, authentic place. It's not because my heart's aching anymore. It's more just an authentic of being. It's authentic salt coming out of my eyes. So it's quite different now. However, with people on this call or watching on YouTube, please know that there is hope, that there are answers to unraveling and dissolving this. And so it is in our own voice, not my voice necessarily singing to someone else's brain, although that has worked based on testimonies and results with clients. However, it is our own voice that actually is our greatest tool that loops around into our beautiful little ears, tickles the afferent fibers in our ears, then tickles our vagus nerve, our voice, the throat, the tongue, all the way down our vertebrae, the spinal cord, down to the tip of your tailbone, through your whole body. So as my brain healed, my voice changed. I used to have a very monotone voice. Most people, well, and I've been told I've been tone deaf my whole life, that I can sing in tune, which is true. I actually sing in micro tunes. It's in between the full and half note, which turns out to be very beneficial for Brain-Bliss. And also the ability to hear sound. When we're children, we can hear inaudible frequencies. Yet as we become adults, we're surrounded by a lot of noise pollution. So I wear earplugs a lot to protect my ears because I can now hear inaudible frequencies again. So I listen to other people's brain waves, listen to their heart, listen to their whole field. Where is the shadow mostly in their body, and then how can we clean that out? So what happens with Brain-Bliss is people's hearing improves quite often. They do start to hear more inaudible frequencies or things that they could not hear before, like maybe the fridge running or their computer running. They couldn't hear it. So that's a good thing, because when their voice comes out of their mouth, it's going to loop back into their ears and tickle a greater range inside of their ears, deep in the inner ear canal. And that was Dr. Tomatis's work, who he invented the electronic ear to help kids with ADD, ADHD, autism, who are having problems with hearing. It's amazing what our voice can do. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I also encourage people to tone for themselves, because I work with toning. For those that watch regularly, they know that I very much am into sound energy, so anything that's sounded is fine by me. We're coming towards the end. Is there anything, and I notice we've got some comments up, but obviously we'll come back to those. You know, you've mentioned a number of things, and I think there's a part of me that feels, have we covered everything? But I appreciate there's loads more. So is there anything specifically that you'd like to share with us?
Few things, absolutely. So as far as our prefrontal cortex, this beautiful area right here, our forehead area, I call it our angelic dolphin brain. So this is our area for executive function. This is where we want to have, where we make very clear, focused decisions. And what we want in the prefrontal cortex is a neurotransmitter known as dopamine. So we want dopamine to really fire in here. It's an ancient reward mechanism to allow us to achieve small and large goals, things that we set out, and then we continue to reward ourselves with dopamine. So I want people to know that dopamine actually comes from your gut area, pancreas, spleen. It's not just produced in your brain like I thought for years. All my brain neurotransmitters must come from up here, but no, in fact, they come from your whole body. So in order to think more like a dolphin and be more like a dolphin, they're very advanced, highly intelligent, very clear, very focused. They have complex play. They communicate with one another incredibly well. Wouldn't it be great if we as humanity on the planet communicated in a great way that dolphins do? What about joy and playfulness? What about pleasure? They are very sensual creatures. And so to constantly give ourselves that dopamine reward mechanism, we can tickle the roof of our mouth with our tongue and just have a hand on our tummy, gently do little swirls, because remember, that's where our dopamine is produced, down in our gut area. Tickle the roof of your mouth and just ask dopamine to come up into this area. Come into your angelic dolphin brain just for another little dose, another little fix of dopamine, a reward mechanism. Because I know that there's people listening that may procrastinate. They may have a hard time following through on tasks. It's dopamine that helps you to have follow through. So if, say, you've been meaning to go to the gym and exercise, and you go one day and then you miss a whole week, it could be because you're not getting enough dopamine. So you want to look at, is your digestion functioning optimally? Are you having digestive enzymes and intake of that? And maybe, or do you need some probiotics? Have you been eating raw leafy greens, drinking lots of water? So there's many things that we can do to our gut area to support dopamine to come up into this part of our brain and allow us to have follow through, allow us to take action, allow us to move forward. So because it takes effort to live a fully expressed life, right? So the steps come, but it's a brain mechanism as well. That's one thing I want to share. The other is that if people want to learn more about Brain-Bliss, because in 45 minutes, it's tricky to share, not tricky, it's not even possible to share how much your brain is responsible for your outcomes in life, is that I have an awesome 3-month program. and it's easy to access. It's we basically do calls on 1 day a week, 3 calls a day, only 30 minutes, and it's for 12 weeks. And on each call, each week, we do topics on brain biology, and we also experience the light sound of the white whales and dolphins. So my guests on these reboot calls really have a chance to advance and accelerate and optimize their brain knowledge and their brain function. So that's every fall and every spring time. It's a wonderful way to learn more about Brain-Bliss, experience it, and it's very affordable.
And people should have your website I've put up there, which is brain-bliss.com, brain-bliss.com, for those who are watching and can't see it. Now, you mentioned your free call, was it once a month?
It's on the first of every month, rain or shine, and whether there is a holiday or not, it happens. It's at 9 a.m. Pacific time, and it's only a 20-minute call. So if people go to my website and they click on Free Bliss, they'll be given the phone number right there to dial into. It's better if they enroll by entering their name and email address. That way they get a better reminder, and also I can email them perhaps one day with some more information on Brain-Bliss or video newsletter or something like that, although that's very rare. I don't bombard people. It's more that they get the phone number to dial into and they remember to dial in at that time, because it's not recorded. It's only for 20 minutes and it's free on the first of every month.
Brilliant. And that's Pacific time, you said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 9 a.m. Pacific time.
Because, okay, sort of hopefully that means everybody in the States can connect with you, and people in the UK and in Europe.
That's right. They can. It might be late for them or early morning, but it's great because it's through the phone line. So it's just, they can call in through Skype or their phone line, their cell phone. I encourage people to use headphones if they're using a cordless or cell phone, so that the phone itself is not close to their brain. And that's about it. Yeah.
Brilliant. We have a few comments. Ananda says, can I say something about the light? As for me, Mahalia is the light with her love and knowledge she shares. I take it you know Ananda.
I do. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant.
Thank you. She's amazing.
Mandy says, Mahalia is sharing something awesome with us. Bless you, Mahalia, and thank you so much. Mandy also follows that with a question for Mahalia. What is a shadow frequency?
So shadow is the opposite of light. Shadow covers light, and shadow could even be seen as dusty particles on light. Your body is made of light based on quartz energy, quartz crystalline structure, and the brain and the neurons operate on light and sound, on music. Shadow frequency comes from trauma, comes from head injury, concussion, emotional trauma, maybe if you've been bullied at a stage or any time in our life, even with driving in traffic and road rage, that's a way of being bullied. But remember that those people that are causing or inflicting pain also have hurt inside. They have unresolved shadow frequency and trauma as well. And I like sharing that with people to remind people to have more compassion for everyone around, because we've been swimming in a soup of pain and suffering and shadow frequency, and we've forgotten. In fact, most of us weren't even taught what it's like to be in pleasure, happiness, true contentment, and joy. So shadow frequency lurks around in our bodies and plants itself in certain places in certain ways to just block or prevent light from flowing efficiently. Shadow isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, we want to love shadow, we want to thank it, we want to embrace it, we want to acknowledge its power. It's not about booting it out of the body and being never to return again. It's finding balance with our primal energy Our root chakra energy, our primal biological lower brain, reptilian brain, our limbic emotional brain, is finding the truth about being authentic with the primal body in shadow, as well as being in the higher brain, the angelic dolphin prefrontal cortex, with the light from beyond, the musical spheres, and uniting them in the center of our heart, threefold flame, the great central sun, our bundle of hiss, which is our spark, our original spark that our parents had divinely created when the ovum and the sperm triumphantly met each other. A spark was created, and that spark is inside of your heart. So we want to find the ways that the body has biological light, and find the ways that the biology has primal root energy and shadow energy. We want to have it clean. We want to have it balanced. We want to have it harmonized. And so that we are functioning as self-honoring human beings, self-regulating, as I said earlier, and very conscious of how we operate in the world. Now, getting right down to our posture, sitting up straight, having our head and neck up. We have a vagus nerve. We need to be aware of how that functions as well. We have to stand tall if we are to present ourselves to the world in a way where we want our wishes and dreams to fully come true, where we want to live in our freedom. That's what Brain-Bliss is all about.
And it's so true. It's I suppose what you're saying is it's building that confidence in self. Sort of, and sometimes you have to start with I'm going to stand upright, I'm going to sit upright, I'm going to have that confidence. I was very good at showing the confidence and not having it, because we can portray it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you actually feel it within you, you can do that relaxed and confident.
That's right. Because the focus is on pleasure. The focus is on the parasympathetic state. It's on supporting with the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is responsible not only for our voice and how we project it. Remember, our voice really impacts our own brain, but our heart, it's responsible for our breath, the support in our lungs, our circulation, our gut reaction, our gut instinct, our digestion, our metabolism. So if we're under stress and we're trying to be confident at the same time, it doesn't do us any good in our biology in the long run. It really doesn't. To be in pleasure and to be self-aware is one of the greatest ways to operate from my experience on the planet. I thought I was conscious. No, I read hundreds of books. I don't know how many courses. People can see my resume on my website, and they're all awesome, and I learned a lot. And I sought those for answers, yet I was still broken on the inside. I had a broken brain, a broken heart. And I found that honoring the trauma and using light and sound was real for me. It is what has been true for me, and that has allowed me to take these years now to produce Brain-Bliss and give it back to people.
But I think, sort of people like yourself and myself and so many of the guests I've had on the program over the nearly 2 years that I've been doing it, our traumas have almost been our biggest gift, because they by helping ourselves, we now help others. Everything that we've learned and we bring out to people. And so there will be many people that will love what you do, will resonate with what you do, it will work for them. But for those that maybe it's not right for them, there is so much out there that can help everybody, and there'll be aspects of. And I love now what happened to me, because it has made me who I am. And whereas I was not that confident person that I am now, and to be able to be totally relaxed with, if you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. That's fine. I have no issues with it. But I couldn't have been like that while I was still in the trauma. And we can all come out of that, can't we? We can all come into that confidence of love and pleasure and joy of self.
We can. And as long as people have that little willingness, based on A Course in Miracles, they talk about a little willingness and how that is important, and courage and the will to not give up. Because I wanted to give up many times. And Dr. Daniel Amen has proven that, say we have major trauma to the left temporal lobe, which is a left amygdala, which is actually our home for joy in the brain. But when it's had severe trauma, then that person can have violent tendencies. They can have violent thoughts. They can have suicidal tendencies. So sometimes people may not be ready for what I have to offer, or anyone else out there, if they're suffering so badly. I just hope that people watch this and do seek help and do not give up on their life, and realize that it is a biological function that can be reversed. In fact, the brain, because of neuroplasticity and epigenetics, the brain can actually repair itself to better than it was before. I'm pretty sure that at my stage in my life right now, my brain is way better than it ever was, based on clearing trauma and using light and sound, and based on knowledge and awareness as well. So that's a really key point, to remind those that are on that edge, and to seek out. There's medical professionals out there that are working in the field of brain science and neuroacoustics, and that are there to help people. And there are, gosh, hundreds and thousands of testimonies. So please seek that help. Please let your brain be helped, let it be fixed. And yes, it's so important that we acknowledge all of the help on the planet, all the ways that we can evolve. And I'm just so grateful to whoever does resonate with Brain-Bliss, that they get that empowerment through me.
And folks, it can be. When I was doing loads of research from the trauma that I had, because I was very, very young, and they say that because I was in hospital for 3 months, and that included my first birthday, and they said that the research they did was that a child is classed as being naughty, the first stage. And that's when the child is constantly crying because they want their parents. The second stage is they call the good stage, because the child stops crying. And then there is a third stage where the child loses interest in their parents before they've even left the room. First stage is easy to get a child back from. Second stage, it's possible to get a child back from. Third stage, as far as they were concerned, it's impossible to get a child back from. My mother has told me, I hit stage 3, which potentially says that I should never have been healed from the trauma that was caused to me. But folks, I have been. And sound has been one of those for me. You know, you're out there, if you've gone through anything that has caused this, you can
just play my crystal ball, because the crystal ball represents our inner gemstone, the quartz crystalline that we are made of, that is in our blood, our bones, our brain, our skull, our heart. And this higher sound represents the dolphins. And the sound of dolphin makes a long-held, more high-pitched soprano tone. And it resonates deep into the cellular genetics, our DNA, and it allows more brightness, more lightness in our cells, in our mitochondria, in the functioning and the greater communication in our body. So I make a dolphin type tone from my voice. However, we can hear what a high sound will sound like from the crystal bowl. So sometimes people play the crystal bowl this way, so it gets a vibe going. I just like gonging mine and letting it play. Have this time with you, Sara. Thank you for doing this interview and asking me such great questions.
Oh, Mahalia, thank you so much for joining us and sharing Brain-Bliss with us. It's been an absolute pleasure. It really has. Folks, www.brain-bliss.com. I will go in and I will put this under the YouTube video. It is also, Mahalia's information is also on our About Us page on the Gift of Healing TV website, along with the website as well. So do feel free to go on that. Remember about her monthly free call on the 1st of every month at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Try and sign up for that, and go and find out everything you want to on her website about her and Brain-Bliss. Thank you so much for joining us. Next week is the Patricia Iris Kerrin Show. Join Patricia for her new series about Viva, and you can look on the website and see what that stands for, but it's Viva Love Healing. So I hope you will join her next week. And thank you, folks. Have a wonderful week. Mahalia, again, thank you so very much for joining us. Have a wonderful week, folks. Love, peace, and light to you all. Namaste.
Thank you. Yeah.